Welcome back to another Sins of a Solar Empire 2 ship analysis for the Vasari Alliance. Today we are going to look at the Skirantra Carrier. This is our carrier frigate, our carrier capital ship. It consists only of bombers, as it is the Vasari. As of the current patch, before the end of March, we do not have access to fighters. The current rumor is that that will change in the next patch within the next 2 weeks. So a lot of what we're about to talk about has a high potential to change, but I do look forward to any additional patches, any additional balancing that they provide for this game. So right here I've got a level 10 ship. It has no increases in max shield or in max hull, or I do have the armor turned on. So at base, let me pull it up. At the very base, starts with 1,440 shield points. Level 10 comes out to 2310. Armor points, it goes from 880 to 1415. As I said, I've got the first level upgraded here, which bumps through from 1415 to 1585. And then hull points, we start with 4195 and we level up to 7,140, where I've got a little bit extra here just because I've been screwing around with some items. Shield points, we get 97 additional per level. Armor points, we get 59 additional per level, and then hull points, we get 327 per level. The base speed of this one is 600, which is the same speed that the evacuator was that we reviewed in the previous video. And as I said, it does come with bombers. At level 1, we have 2 flights of bombers, and then we get a new one extra bomber at every prime number. So at level 2 you have three sets, level 3 you have 4 sets, level 5 you have 5 sets, and then you get new ones again at 7 and 9. Each bomber, I believe base, has a 5 damage per second threshold with light phase missiles. As I said, I have been screwing around with this one. So it's got extra max armor, extra armor strength, and hull points. The level 1 here, without any skills involved in it, has 5.7 DPS, 50 armor, and 77 hull. If we are maxed out, and I'm talking no upgrades, but we do have the elite bombers and also the bomber armor, we have 118 armor points with 48 armor strength and 108 hull points with a move speed of 960. So quite good. And as I said, you get a new trio of bombers every level for the first 3 levels, which is essentially 15 extra DPS for this ship. On this ship, it comes with 2 light wave cannons for 8.5 DPS and 120 Pierce. So we can find those wave cannons. Looks like it's right here on the tips of the front. I don't even know what you call those, front wings. They shoot mostly in an arc. Looks like a round. Kind of off to the side here, and then has a little bit of overlap towards the front where they can shoot the same target, but with 120 Pierce they're not doing a whole lot. We do have 6-point defense weapons on here. Let's see if we can find them all. First one is on the side. It has 360 degrees around and most of the way upward and even a little bit forward. So in practice it will shoot forward sometimes. We also have 2 on the bottom here that are mostly rear facing. You can see it doesn't quite complete the circle towards the front. And then we have a third pair on the back that is also rear facing. So with this ship, you really have 2 that shoot to the side, 2 that shoot to the rear, and 1 that'll shoot to the front. Because the side and the back one will kind of pair up and work together. Then lastly on this one is the heavy phase missiles. Does 21.2 damage per second with 600 pierce. This ship in particular is not going to be a high damage ship. One of the things about this ship is you kind of don't want it in the fight, and we'll look at it shortly as we look at the skills. First skill is the nanite armor. This is, I would argue, one of the most critical skills for this faction as a whole, and not just for this ship. It has a 12-second cooldown that doesn't change across any of the ranks. It has a range of 6,600, which does not change with ranks. It also can shoot anywhere in the radius. You see the purple there. You do not have to be facing the target. You can apply it to any of your ship or any of your capital ships in this radius at any time as long as they're in it. Antimatter decreases with level from 90 to 75 to 60 at level 3. And then armor restored goes from 12% of max armor to 24 to 36% max armor. As we've talked about in other videos, the armor is very important on all ships, not just ours, but any ship in this game that has it, because it increases the durability while you're chewing through that armor. So if we had level 5 nanite armor and cast it on a similar level Skirantra, it would basically be worth about 330 or so armor, which is, again, is a very nice chunk of armor. You cannot cast it on yourself, so you would need pairs if you're trying to cast it on each other, and you can only cast them one at a time on each other. It has something called initial armor strength, so it will buff up the armor strength on the ship that it's cast on. This one ironically also has 108 starting armor. Look at the other one. I think this one does as well. This one, you get an extra 108. It scales up to 216. So I believe the other one's right around 100 and, would that be 151, 161, somewhere around there. And then it will slowly ramp down from that plus 216 to plus 72 over a duration of 36, 72, and 108 seconds. With this skill, I would argue this is our greatest skill for this faction. When we get into tough fights and you have multiple Skirantra carriers, you should be using this on cooldown if you have a ship that is getting low on health. You do have to be careful about leaving it on autocast, because occasionally if you have multiple ships that are getting targeted, it will not recast it on something that's getting close to death if the duration of the armor strength is still applied. So you sometimes will need to make sure that you are casting it manually. Next one up is Repair Cloud. This is another wonderful ability that we get. This applies to all ships in range of this radius. The cooldown is 54, 48, and then 42 seconds. At base, antimatter goes from 90 to 75 and then 60. And then hull or armor regen, whichever one. It will regen armor if you have full hull. If you do not have full hull, it automatically prioritizes hull and then goes into armor afterwards. It will do, again, 12, 18, and then 24 hull or armor regeneration. It's best applied when on armor, as we've talked about armor. And then the radius increases from 3,600 to 4,800 to 6,000 with levels 1, 2, and 3. And then the duration of the repair is 18, 24, and 30 seconds. This is a fire and forget ability. So when you cast it, it basically casts in the range here. Anything actively in the range gets the application, even if it leaves the range. And anything that flies into the repair cloud does not get repaired. So you need to be very careful when you apply it if something critical is about to pass through. It does not channel. It is not like shield restoration on the progenitor for the Advent, where anything that comes in automatically also gets the heal. I apologize if there's been background noise. It's my child's monitor. So I apologize if there was extra noise there. And the duration is 30 seconds. So you can heal quite amount of hull and armor in that time. Quick calculation, 240, 480, 720 hull or armor regeneration. This applies to both capital ships. I believe it also applies to structures. And it also applies to frigates, cruisers, anything that's in there except for strike craft. It does also repair corvettes, just not bombers. The third skill is the elite bombers skill. You get bonus weapon damage, extra hull points, and extra armor strength on your bombers. So you can see here, this one has a 7.6 DPS. If I go to my level 1 that has no skills, it's 5.7. So it is a substantial upgrade when you start to have so many bombers for your fleet. The final one is replicate forces. This is a 4-minute cooldown, range of 6,000 and 120 antimatter cost, and it basically creates a copy of your target unit, whether that's it has to be a frigate or a cruiser or a corvette, and then you basically make 3 free copies of that ship for 180 seconds. Those ships cannot leave the gravity well and cannot come with your fleet, but when you're in here, let's say you have your oppressors, and you just want to make 3 more, you click the ability, click on one oppressor, and then it will triplicate your oppressor. But also it will do it to the Tesseract, it will do it to the Severin, so I recommend manually casting those if you have the bandwidth to do so, otherwise it will just pick on its own. So again, a very, very critical ship. It is our bomber ship, so we want to keep it away from enemy ships that can kill us. So if we keep it right on the range where we can attack, you basically want your core toll in front of you and the enemy ships over here. And you probably want to be ready to turn and run as soon as you can, and then also keep your engagement range short so you don't go chasing into the enemy fleet. You can see here that the point defense pulse guns have 10 DPS, and there's 6 of them, so you have 60 DPS on your point defense, which can quite quickly clear out Advent fighters and bombers. But again, you need to be careful with your engagement arcs, because there's a good chance that what you are shooting at may or may not get the angles that you need to keep shooting. Alright, going over items, I'm going to take that off so we can talk about it. Nano Catalyzer. This is a must-have item at all times on this ship, because you are a caster with this ship. You are the medic for this fleet. If you run out of antimatter, you are essentially dead in the water and dead to your fleet, and you can no longer support any longer. So having the antimatter capped, or at least managing it, is absolutely critical on this ship, and there's it should be managed at all times. Second, I do recommend keeping Nano Repair Swarm on this ship at any time. You can essentially buff your heal for all of your ships, so you get extra hull and armor regen. You can stack that with Repair Cloud. You can stack that with the Regeneration Bay, and then you also stack it with Nanite Armor. So when it comes to healing, you can have 12 hull per second, armor per second. You can get 36 max armor, and then you can also get another 24 here, and then the Regeneration Bay, I believe it's in here. Get the Regeneration Bay and also get additional healing from 24 and 36 hull and armor repair. So we can single target heal quite well. Nano attack swarms, I don't think is necessary on this ship. Hopefully you're not in range of something where you're casting it in the first place. I do not recommend either offensive ship item. You should not be in range of the enemy fleet to be using your damage unless you know that you're going to win and there's no significant threats for you. So you should not be getting the phase missiles. There are better items to spend your space on. You should definitely not be getting the wave modulator, as I've talked about in other videos. Phase attenuated shield. Get it against the enemy Vasaris. It will help against Canrex. It will help against Desolators. It will help against enemies with a significant amount of bombers. Anything to keep this ship alive, more to keep everybody else in your fleet alive. Same with self-repairing armor. This is one that I would recommend getting, again, because you also have the self-armor restore on yourself. I do have it as I'm playing through right here, and it did take some notes at level 8 with this item active. I was getting 14.6 armor per second, and that's without using the active item. So you do get a significant amount of regeneration. 14 armor is worth roughly 2 or 3 Canrex from an opposing player shooting at you, just to show how much that is actually worth per second. And then you also, again, you get the extra spike of armor restored for max armor. Bomber armor, this is the only ship that you could feasibly get this on if you choose to get it. I do not believe in getting this item for any ship, simply because this is your medic. I have elite bombers because I've been screwing around in an AI game and clearing gravity wells to try to get this to level 10. This, I would argue, you are alternating between these two all the way up to level 6, grab replicate forces at level 7, and then elite bombers just because it's a nice to have at level 8, 9, and 10. But bomber armor, you don't care if your bombers are living or dying. You are caring if this ship is living or dying and supporting your fleet. Gravity stabilizer, I do have it on right now. It is a base 600 max speed ship, so it is slow, just like our evacuator in the last video. So I do have it. It does not give you a significant amount of speed. I think the Halcyon for Advent has around 700 speed. So getting this does not let you clear any quicker. It does not let you move that much quicker. But if you need to be able to turn and run away, this may be what you need just to do that. Resonance amplifier, I've talked about that at length as to why I don't like it at all on any of our capital ships. And then antimatter recharger. This is probably the one ship where it might be worth getting if you are able to keep it alive. Having antimatter is very critical to supporting the rest of your fleet. If we do the quick values, let's see, we have 1.7 antimatter restoration per second. If we have the nano catalyzer, because it doesn't cost an exotic to build it, I would recommend still keeping this one over the antimatter recharger, but it does force you to manage your ship items because you have to replace it on consumption. So end game, when I've got unlimited resources, I do have a nano catalyzer, I do have a repair swarm, and then I have the two defensive items. The phase attenuated shield, if you are not facing a Vasari, I would say get gravity stabilizer just to keep your ship from getting caught and hopefully losing it. Most enemies will target these carriers first because of how important it is to our fleets. So keeping it alive is extremely important for us. Do minor faction items first. I do like to get this ship second in some instances. Colony Seed Nanites allows you to colonize in two different directions at once. You can have your evacuator go one way, and then you could send the Skirantra another way. It does clear actually fairly quickly and fairly safely on its own because it is a carrier. It can let the bombers do most of the damage for it, and then support and stay nearby just to do a little bit extra damage. So Colony Seed Nanites is one I do recommend early game on this ship. Jump Field Stabilizer, I've talked about it in other videos. There's a good chance that you're keeping this ship at arm's length from the enemy, so you do want to leave the you might want to put a phase jump stabilizer on it. If you do, I recommend dropping one of these two consumables and placing this in place just to get your ship out. Once it's safely out, or once you don't feel like you need to use it again, replace it again for whichever consumable you dropped. The Aluxian 20% cooldown would also be extremely beneficial. That would remove 2.4 seconds from nanite armor, and it looks like about 7 seconds off of repair cloud. Or no, that's not right. 8 seconds off repair cloud, where you are almost at duration with just this single item. Crippled hull, I do like a crippled hull on just about everything. This ship, as I said, because it can get targeted, if you have a very high level one that you need to keep alive, put it on your ship to help it escape. Empire Research. This is probably the only ship where I recommend going into any of the antimatter skills. You are not really looking at the regeneration number, but more the max antimatter amount. We do have a very short cooldown on nanite armor. It is 12 seconds at all ranks. And as I said, it does scale down in antimatter cost. It starts at 90, and being able to cast that, find my level 1, you can cast, it looks like 2, and you probably have a third available just due to regen by the time it's back up. So you can cast 3 of these at level 1 before you're completely out of antimatter. And you will be replacing a vast number of these throughout the game. They do get shot at, you do replace them. Next would be phase resonance. This is the same as the evacuator. I would say if you have the ability to get 15 phase resonance points down, you do want the mobility one. If you do not feel like you can get to 15, then you want definitely 1 in utility and 1 in combat, but prefer the utility tree to get additional ability cooldown. You can get up to 56 ability cooldown if you have the utility here and you have the minor faction item, and you can basically cast nanite armor every, I believe it's 6 seconds, so it can very quickly keep some stuff alive. But same item, combat really doesn't help you. It might increase your damage slightly with phase missile bypass or extra damage or reload, but most of the damage from this ship is coming from the bombers and not the weapons on the ship. For research, as I said, we don't really count on this ship to do damage. We might get the precise turret servos to help with point defense for missiles. This ship can pretty comfortably go into a gravity well with 3 javelins and not take any missile damage the entire time it's in there, as long as you correctly position so the point defense are aiming where you're not having all 3 javelins shooting or only 1 turret can hit. But otherwise, it is good to have. You can do some serious damage to enemy fighters and enemy bombers if they're in the area, but usually you're running away from them and it's a reactionary and stuff is just kind of getting shot at the back end. But against Canrax, against Javelins, not so much Tempests, you do want these this at some point. The rest of these I don't believe are necessary. You can get the NME warheads for your bombers, but this is not, you're getting it because you have a lot of Canrax or you have a Desolator. You're not picking this up to do damage with your bombers. Defensively, you definitely like everything in the defensive tree. You want to keep this ship alive. This is probably the only one I'm okay with Shield Burst, possibly. Just because you're probably keeping it on the edge of the gravity well anyway. So you want to make sure that you're keeping it over on that side. Or keeping it outside to not take damage. You do want the hull regen, anything to keep this thing alive. You do want extra hull points, just again, keep it alive. You do want the shield regen and the extra regeneration. I did check shield regen while I was playing this playthrough. You get an extra 0.6 shield regen per level. So at level 7, I was getting 8.6 shields per second. Combine it with the 14.6 armor per second, and I believe that the hull regeneration is around 15 per second. And if you've gone through hull, armor, and shield and are regenerating all of those at once, you have quite a substantial amount of healing. And that does not include any regeneration bonuses here, and I only had the hull regeneration here. So that was quite high just to keep it alive. That's it for researches. Again, this is a very useful ship for us. By the time we are getting, we'll talk about synergies real quick. So this ship by itself can keep a number of Chordal Devastators alive. You get it in range so you can give it the max armor. You apply the nanite repair item, and then you do a repair cloud, kind of as a sweep. I'm going to try and show what I mean. So if this is your Chordal here, you unpause it, you do a drive-by heal. Let me speed it up a little bit. Try to do a drive-by and then get it out. And just try to keep your ships alive that way. With the evacuator, same thing. Because it is tanky, you'll be tanking it further with nanite armor and repair cloud. You are the same speed as it, so if the evacuator got in too far into a fight, the enemy will have to choose between your ship, between your Skirantra or your evacuator as to what it wants to kill. Multiple Skirantras. Nanite armor can be reapplied very quickly, so you can very quickly refill an armor if you have multiple Skirantras nearby. The only thing that doesn't stack is the armor strength bonus, and I don't know if it's the highest value sticks and you cannot replace it, or if every subsequent cast refreshes it, and whatever was the last cast is what applies. So some testing that I or somebody else would have to do to figure that out. Repair Cloud, you do cast Repair Cloud and it does heal yourself. Nanite Armor cannot. You can only apply it to other ships. So if you have another Skirantra nearby, you can do back and forth to try and keep the two alive. With the why am I blanking? With the Marauder, the Distort Gravity is something that you can definitely benefit from. Gives you the ability to bug out or position better just to keep this thing alive. You can also use Phase Out Hull after you use Repair Cloud. I believe you can still keep your passive heal going while you're phased out. I'd have to double check the testing. But if you're getting shot at by a lot of missiles or the enemy's focus firing you here, phase it out, give your cooldowns a chance to finish cooling down, and then as soon as you come out of phase out, pop your Nanite Armor and Repair Cloud to hopefully get maybe one more cast off before you get killed. And then the one that it really doesn't have too much synergy on is the Volcaras. The Volcaras, I mean, you're just going to heal it, but you're not typically having more than maybe 3 Volcaras on your fleet at any given point. So late game, when your fleet is quite big, you'll maybe have 2 Marauders. I find myself having as many Marauders as the enemy has Marzas, or as many Marauders as the enemy has Radiances. But we'll talk about that in the next video. You probably have 5 to 10 Skirantras. Again, 5 to 10 Cortals. And then your Titan, which is being supported by your Skirantras, and your Cortal that's being supported by your carriers. Probably 2 or 3 of these, and 3 of these, with the supporting frigates in between. As I said, you can provide a lot of armor to our Titan. Unbuffed at level 1, you can see it's 1560 armor with 156 armor strength. It's almost at 100 durability if you have a level 3 nanite armor and you're using the armor strength on it. So this thing can get roughly to the durability of a starbase with the right heals on it. So I do recommend that. Ships we have to worry for is the same for just about all the capital ships. With tech, you have to be careful for a large bomber fleet. Careful of the Gauss frigate if there's high enough numbers. Careful of just about any frigate or cruiser that has significant enough numbers to chase you down and kill you. Enemy capitals that we have to worry about. The cold battleship, I think, can chase you down quite easily and will win pretty easily in a 1v1. We have to be careful of the Dunov on this ship because the Dunov will steal your antimatter, which basically ruins what this ship is trying to do. It doesn't have the best DPS if it's out of antimatter, and the whole point of it is it's your fleet's medic that keeps everything alive. Trying to think. Akon doesn't do anything. You do have to be careful of Marzas. If a enemy Marza does get a missile barrage on your fleet, try and get a Repair Cloud on it as the missile barrage is hitting. There's a chance that with the regen you can keep it alive, especially if you have enough levels in it. Like I said, there's a chance. It doesn't mean it's going to work, but it's a chance. With the Advent, really you want to keep this thing away from all of the Advent. The Halcyon will absolutely beat you. It is faster, it gets more bombers, telekinetic push keeps your bombers off of it, so you will lose a one-on-one engagement unless the enemy player plays it really poorly. Radiance, you definitely cannot fight a Radiance 1v1. It will silence you, it will drain your antimatter. You want to keep this out of range of the enemy Radiance. And really animosity for the rest of your frigates. If you can somehow get a repair cloud on those frigates while animosity is going, that'll help keep them alive. But you don't want to get too close because you want to stay out of range of the detonate antimatter ability. You do have to be careful of the support one. I'm blanking on what it's called right now, but it will put you into stasis with its first ability. What it does is it takes any ship that's fighting, puts it in stasis, and then as long as the ship doesn't take hull or armor damage, the ship can't move. But the Advent can very quickly chew through the shields on your ship. You do have to be careful of the Illuminators, and you have to be careful of the Destra for the Advent. Also, you need to be careful of the Chastise ability on the Advent Wrath, because that by itself will get whatever is chasing you to kill you. The best way to prevent that is to not fight in enemy culture by establishing your own culture, which we don't have very good culture, but you still need to establish it just to fight against Advent Wrath and not be 50 to 70% slower. I think that's pretty much it. It is, like I said, it's one of our best ships. We definitely need to have a significant number of these the later the game goes, which I think is easier said than done, just because this costs, I believe it's one two Enduriums and one Kalinide. Yeah, because I know it's the opposite of the Marauder. And then as far as early game goes, we can start the game. We start the game with our Evacuator. We can get a Skirantra second. We can also get the Volcra second. If you do get the Skirantra, you cannot build either the Antrak Marauder or the Chordal Devastator. Both of them require the Endurium to build, and we use 2 of them on the Skirantra. So there's just no leftovers for these 2. You do have the option of attempting to collect it as a random exotic. I don't remember what the rate chance is for Homeworlds, because I know that they changed it recently, and I'm pretty sure that they actually weighted it heavier towards Endurium. So you do have a chance of collecting it, and maybe you were able to build a Chordal and a Skirantra, and then you start with the top 3 instead of these 3 here. In 5v5, I recommend getting the Skirantra, getting the Evacuator, and then pushing to get the exotics you need for the Devastator. In a 1v1, I actually recommend keeping your starting egg, get the Volcross, and then get the Skirantra after, treated as a true support ship. And I'm trying to think of anything else. Like I said, I usually have 5 to 6 of these. Once we're up here, once we're at 1500 supply, I try to have 6, which is 300 supply worth of that 1500, or almost 20%. It is that good. And then as far as bombers, because it costs 50 supply, the cost of the transporter, they cost 15 supply, so you can get 3 transporters in total, and I believe you get 2 flights of bombers for 18 total bombers here. And as soon as we hit level 7, on the Skirantra, we have at just as many strike craft as the transporter would, plus all the support abilities that go with it. Before that, the transporter has a better bomber to supply cost ratio. I think that's it. Again, very, very good ship. Some say that this is an imbalanced carrier. I've seen some videos online where people say that this is so strong that no other ship or no other faction has a ship that can compete with it, and I agree with them. This ship is phenomenal. Highly recommend building as many of these as you can mid to late game, and just winning your games because of that. Alright, that's it for this video. Look forward to the next one. Should be doing the Antioch Marauder tomorrow. Thanks, have a good one.